Hi, I'm Gwenem Carsley, transformational body, sex, and soul coach. This is not a show just about sex. This is a show about being raw, real, and awake inside the skin you're in. This is about the mess and magnificence of being human through the gateways of intimacy, eros, and what we rarely tell. It's a reckoning with the real, where breath meets bone, where truth undresses us and gasps seep through the cracks. We're not here to behave. We're here to feel, to experience, to grow and expand, not at the convenience of others. It's for the parts of you that have been silenced, ache, grieve, pulse, remember.
Welcome to Break Free and Trust, a redesign for living. Join me, Chris.
And me, Jacqueline, for real conversations about life, death, and everything in between.
Learn to connect with your intrinsic power to grow and heal, how to laugh at your own humanness and not take life too seriously.
Through healthy conversations between the feminine and masculine, you learn how to harness the power of relationship and the mirror to befriend your shadow and to trust that any obstacle that gets in your way is there to help you grow.
Together, working at a practical level, you learn to trust that everything that is happening is for you, your growth, and ultimate freedom.
Our circumstances don't matter. It's only how we relate to them that does.
Get ready to befriend the wisdom of your body and the power of your mind.
Break Free and Trust starts now.
And welcome to Break Free and Trust, a redesign for living. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jacqueline.
So here's an image that has never left me. Holding a resentment is like drinking a little poison every day and expecting the other person to die. So let's sit with that for a second. It is absolutely absurd. And yet almost all of us are doing exactly that right now, carrying resentments towards people, places, and things. And some of those resentments we know about, but many more we don't. And they are quietly running in the background and they're coloring everything we do. So Jack and I have come to believe that to truly break free, you have to become resentment free. Not resentment managed, certainly not resentment justified, just free. So why do we hold on to them? And what do we secretly think we're getting from them? What is it actually costing us to carry them? How do we finally let them go? The ones we know about and the ones we don't. All this and more in the next hour. And for live viewers, the show will also be open to questions in the second half of the show. So call in at 1-800-930-2819 or just write your questions in the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
So you mentioned that image, that resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for another person to die, and that it never left you, and that it's sort of, that image leaves you in this place of really recognizing the insanity of what that means. What does it mean to you? What does that metaphor really mean to you when you think about it?
Yeah, I don't know if you have this where there's these powerful sayings, metaphors, or symbols that sort of show up and they just get emblazoned in you.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones for me. Maybe one of the most powerful ones, because I think when this idea was first introduced to me, I was like a little ball of resentments. Like literally, that's how I would define myself.
When was it first introduced to you?
This is like probably about 8 years ago, when I'm sort of like in this, the peak of my alcoholism and addiction, blaming the whole world. It was everybody else's fault but mine, resenting everyone and everything for not helping me or why I had my problems. And this was just presented to me by a friend. And it was, I guess in hindsight, it was pretty close to me starting to do the work to get better. But I just remember sitting with it and just like thinking about it and realized how absurdly obvious it was. Like me sitting around being angry at people, me wanting people to be different than they are, me wanting these situations different than they are, wasn't doing anything to help those situations. It's just basically like a poison to my soul, making me sicker and sicker and sicker. And I saw it in that instance. I didn't do anything about it right away, but it became one of those things that I carried with me as I went forward, and started to show up in all the work I was doing. Always seemed to center around resentments. Where am I carrying it? When am I wanting to be different? And how can I let it go? And that image, every time it would come up when I'd want to hang on to it, would be like, oh, I'm sipping that poison again. How absurd. And I just get to picture myself with this little cup of black poison, drinking it and leering at someone saying, I'll show you. Right? It's just the absurdity of it, and just never left me.
And am I right in assuming that, that's an interesting way to say that. Is it true that a lot of your work now as a coach actually centers around helping people to identify and surrender their resentments?
Yeah, that and other things, but that's a real critical piece, that those resentments tend to be the little creeks or streams that leads to the bigger things, like the fears and the limiting beliefs. The resentments are sort of how they're obviously manifesting. So starting there and eroding those, we get to the bottom of a lot of things.
So you just said something really interesting. And as we were getting ready for this podcast, something about resentments came very clear for me. But I think you kind of just alluded to it. So I'll let you go with it, which is that you start with resentments, but they're like the little creeks that lead you to places of limiting beliefs and fears.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you say more about that?
I think I would say it the other way around. We have limiting beliefs and fears that are the big ocean
Mhm.
and the rivers that trickle up and manifest themselves in these resentments of how we, resentment is of me effectively wanting someone to be different than they are. I think they should be different than they are. I think that situation should be different than it is. I think this should be different than it is. And I'm going to sit there and be angry about it. Well, it's coming from my belief system of how things should be. And I'm getting angry at the fact they're not the way I think should be. So it's the first indication of, well, how do I think things should be? Because that's the problem. How things are how things are. If I have a problem with them, that's where I need to start looking.
So, do you think that resentments and resistance go hand in hand?
They can and often do. It's not a necessary and sufficient condition, but for sure they do. It definitely goes with conflict. Whatever I resent, I'm in conflict with, whether I'm resisting it or not. But I'm definitely in conflict with it. And I can resist things that I don't resent. That's why I say it.
I guess for me, I would assume that if I'm in conflict with something, then I'm in resistance to it.
Yes, but I think if you can resist something and not resent something.
That's true.
Yeah, that's more what I'm trying to say. Like there's there's something happening. I'm going to resist it because I don't believe in it, but I don't resent it because I respect the other person, their other side's vision of why they think it's a good idea. And I can have mutual respect for it. Yet I'm going to resist it because I think there might be a different way.
Okay. So something I actually would continue to hold this idea of the creek to the ocean in the way that I saw it. Because I see it differently. You're talking about trickling up, and I'm thinking more about trickling into. And one of the things that became really clear for me, maybe even in the last 20 minutes, is that our resentments are actually a reflection of the places that we're unwilling to look at in ourselves. We tend to feel resentful towards people, places, and things when an event, a person, a thing is actually tapping into a shadow piece of ourselves that we're unwilling to look at, a place where we might actually feel weak, insecure, powerless. And resentment is almost, it's almost like it's, it feels, anyways, not that it is, it feels empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Stepping into anger and blame feels far more powerful on the surface than asking the question, what's getting triggered in me? What piece of me, what young piece of me is being tripped up here that I then want to go and react and get angry with or carry resentment toward another person? And I had never really thought about it that way. And the idea of the insanity that you were speaking about in terms of resentment, which I find really interesting, is we were just talking before the podcast about the French word for resentment, which is ressentiment or ressentir, which means to feel again. And the insanity of the process is that whatever it is that's tripping us up, when we carry around resentments, we're feeling it over and over and over again. The very thing that we're not wanting to feel, that doesn't feel good, we are just simply on repeat in our minds and then in our bodies and in our overall experience, which is the definition of insanity in a lot of ways.
So resentments now are equating with a form of insanity.
Well, they are absolutely a form of insanity. And you talked about poison and that image. And, for me, when I think about resentments, I think about this Kriya that we teach often in our practice, which is the Kriya for inner anger.
Mm-hmm.
And when we speak to it and we teach it, what we're really speaking to is this idea that any anger that we experience that we don't actually express and share in a healthy way gets turned inward and it gets turned on us. And actually, that experience ends up becoming disease because it is poison for our body, because we end up eating ourselves from the inside out instead of actually dealing with the issue at hand.
You said that you presented that beautifully. You said two things that were, I'm just putting them together now. So this idea of these resentments, they're effectively this external projection onto the world that create disease within us, but we don't look at them, or we have a resistance to looking at them. And why is that? Well, because in a certain sense, they feel good. They allow us to feel morally superior. We take the moral high ground. We're holding them over people. It's almost as this internal sense of power over the world and other people that we are holding into ourselves that cuts us off from saying, hey, what's going on within me that I'm doing these things, right? That's why it obscures it, I think.
Yeah. And I think that as we carry resentments more and more, what we do over time is that we build a case against another person, an old memory, an event, etc. And that case gets stronger and stronger, which actually becomes, it feels like strength. What it is we're building harder and harder armor around our hearts, which then prevents us from being able to actually look inside and ask, what part of me is feeling hurt right now? What part of me is feeling small, insecure, unlovable, unworthy, etc., which we've talked about in many other podcasts. And we build this armor, as you said, of self-superiority. But what we do over time is that we get further and further away from what the actual issue is.
Yes.
And it gets harder and harder for us to crack that.
It locks us into our own subjective reality, which is false to begin with. But I almost like resentment is the disease of separation. It's and in extremes, it starts with othering and isolation. Then it goes to dehumanizing, and ultimately, resentment leads to the end game of genocide in the worst cases. But it all begins with this resentment, and then, as you said, becoming the persecutor, the prosecution, the jury as to why the resentment stands, and building the case for it individually, then collectively. But it's this disease of resentment, and it creates separation. And again, it's the antithesis of living spiritually in oneness, is to hold resentments.
So we have some really I'm going to change my words on that one. We both have lived experiences around what carrying resentments around looks and feels like. And you and I have really decided together that in our relationship, how did you say it? You said it at the very beginning. One resentment is too many.
Yeah. I jokingly say with my clients who are new to this, okay, we've exact formula for how many resentments you get to carry. Take your age, multiply it by 2, take away your birth year, and times it by 0. That's how many resentments we're going to have when we're done, which of course the answer is zero, right?
No, it's not an of course.
Yeah,
The answer
yeah,
is zero to your math
yeah,
mind.
that's
I'm
right.
like,
Yeah.
well, what is he
Yeah.
saying?
It's like zero resentments is like the correct number. The only number of resentments that is correct is zero. You don't want to hold on to any of them. And man, does your ego ever want to hold on to them? But you can get resentment free.
So why does our ego want to hold on to them?
Because the ego, by definition, is craves separateness. It's always trying to separate us from what we actually are. This sort of connected to everything. The ego thrives on being separate to survive. So the ego is like, yeah, bring on the resentments. That's perfect. I'm going to feel superior. I'm going to feel better. And it's going to keep us over here. It's like Gollum with his ring in Lord of the Rings. It's like, my precious. I'm going to hold on to these resentments.
Can you do the
take them
accent?
away. My precious.
No.
Not very good. But yeah, it's like that's the ego. The ego wants to hold these resentments.
So I think I would say it differently.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. The ego, as we've said many times, serves a real purpose in terms of our survival, right? It keeps us safe. Doesn't keep us thriving, but it keeps us surviving. And the structures, again, as we've said many times before, the structures that the ego creates are so powerful. And what they're protecting at the heart of what these structures are doing is any core wounding that we're carrying, any old story that we have on repeat about our own value, about whether or not we're lovable, about our worth, our significance, whatever it looks like for you, whether we're understood. And the idea of resentments keeps us protected from feeling those things, because as long as our anger is projected outward, then we don't have to feel what's at the heart of it. And what's at the heart of any resentment that we're carrying is that wound of not feeling validated, of not feeling loved, of not mattering, of being abandoned, of not being heard. And I think that that's what I was trying to say at the very beginning, which is a new awareness for me in my recent experiences around resentments, and recognizing that I was carrying a number of resentments that I wasn't really fully aware of, and why it was that I was so afraid to actually speak those feelings. And what I got to at the source of it was this whole idea of it wasn't safe or okay for me to feel my feelings. Mm-hmm. Because if I shared how I was really feeling, then I might be left or abandoned.
Yes.
And I say that really tenderly toward myself and to all of you, because I'm in the practice of feeling my feelings. In my world, I feel my feelings all the time. If you asked Chris about whether or not I was good at feeling my feelings, he would say, I dive into those places willingly. But there was something in this recent experience that really eluded me. And I wouldn't touch it. Yeah. I'd been carrying them for a long time.
I just want to interject, because when we were talking about it, you said something really wise a couple of days ago in this. Is like, you might have realized you're really good at expressing your feelings, but maybe not as good at feeling your feelings, and in recognizing the difference there, maybe for the first time. I don't know, at least in this context.
That just landed.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely.
And those are different things.
Yep. But I think that they're also yes and no. So I would say I actually have gotten really good at feeling my feelings and expressing them. But there's certain places where that's harder for me. Certain places that touch a deeper wound that maybe I haven't looked at as much, where that becomes more challenging.
And so you're saying linking it back to resentment. It's the resentment shows up when it's a situation where you're potentially being required to feel those feelings and the things that you don't want to feel them on. It gets projected out as a resentment.
Mm. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I would say it. I'd adjust it a
Yeah, I'm
tiny
putting words
bit.
in your mouth. So
Yeah,
that's through your
no,
words.
that's
Yeah.
okay. I wasn't thinking about it that way, but I think if I was going to respond to that, I would say when something touches a part in me that is really protected, that I'm not yet willing to look at, that I haven't done the work to explore, that I haven't gone into and been able to meet myself with compassion, that the knee jerk is to project it back out.
Yes.
So that I don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
And this most recent experience was really eye-opening for me because I have done so much work on myself around self-expression and around being able to sit in discomfort. And there was this real recognition that there was a huge blind spot and an opportunity to do deeper work, which for me, maybe I've said this before on this podcast, maybe I haven't, but it used to be that I held this idea that our inner work was like layers of an onion. Just keep peeling them away. And just when you think you're done, there's another layer. And when I did my EMDR training, Marshall Walensky, who is a fabulous teacher, he turned that on its back and he said, "What do you have at the end of peeling an onion?" And his response was, "You just have a bunch of tears. What if we looked at it differently? What if our inner work was more like peeling the layers of an artichoke? And that every layer that you peeled got you closer and closer to the heart. And for me, the heart is remembering who you really are at the center of it all, when all of these different layers peel away. And my experience over time has been that this work of going inside, which can sometimes be really tiring, has shifted and it's become more of an adventure, because at the heart of it, what we're really looking for is a remembrance of who we really are. And who we really are isn't our resentments or our pain or our stories. It's what came before that. It's what came before we adopted all of these ideas about what's good and bad and right and wrong. And when we get to the heart of that, there's no need for carrying those resentments anymore.
It's interesting that the analogy of the onion and the artichoke, and the other one I think that really resonates with me, and they're all valid, but it's like there were this house with hidden rooms in it, right? And it's like it's because sometimes the layer analogy is, oh, okay, I see that layer and I have to go through this one, but it's like, okay, I've looked at all the rooms of the house, I'm good to go here. And it's like, okay, I didn't look in the attic because there it was hiding in there, and it just shows up in the weirdest times and the weirdest situations. And okay, now I'm gonna go look in the attic, and I'm constantly discovering new little rooms or hidden passageways in this house that show up in this work.
Which sounds a hell of a lot more like an adventure than peeling the layers of an onion.
Exactly. It's sleuthing now. That's right. And now, honestly, like, maybe jumping ahead here, but for me now, when a resentment does show up, it's more like, oh, wow, okay, there's a resentment. Okay, I get to go looking for this thing now. Like, what is behind this thing in me? I want to find out. It's like it's an indication that there's, a trail to this hidden part of me and there's many hidden parts of me, but it's a trail to go look for.
So how do we learn? I mean, you and I, we can model here and we can talk about it in our home, etc., about how we work with resentments with each other, which might be interesting for our listeners. I'm not sure. But how would you guide another person to being able to release their resentments, to name them, to work with them, to let them go?
Before we go there,
Mm.
why do they want to do this? What's in the other side of what's resentment free? What's in it for them, right? Why bother?
So it's interesting because I listened to you give our introduction.
Yeah.
And there's something about the word break free in that actually didn't resonate for me.
It was just our
curious.
podcast
I know,
title.
but it's curious, which I think I struggled with at the beginning, which is really interesting.
I was trying to be clever with it.
You're clever, sweetie. What lies at the other side is freedom.
Yeah.
What lies at the other side in that freedom is self-acceptance. And that self-acceptance is that vasi that I think that we're really talking about, is when we can get to a place where we can acknowledge the resentment and then what sits underneath it, which is often fear. And we can meet ourselves in that and accept that that too is a part of who I am, that I'm in this moment, I'm afraid. In this moment, I feel misunderstood. In this moment, I don't feel important, whatever it is. And it can be okay with us to feel that. Then there's a freedom that opens up that runs so deep. And there's nothing like it.
Yeah. And I would just add to it, again, just from my own, view of the world, is like I see resentments as just like the bondage of self. And it's my resentments. It's when I'm full of resentments, I'm so inwardly focused about how everything affects me. It's me, and my resentments. And I'm just trapped in this prison of my own thoughts, my own belief system. And to be resentment free, it's like having left the prison. I'm now externally focused. I'm not worried about how everything affects me. I'm looking at everything out there and seeing how unconnected I am to it. It's like this freedom, as you said. And that's profound. And I would say, like, to best of my ability, really striving hard to live a resentment-free lifestyle for the last several years. I didn't think you could live life like this. I didn't think this level of peace and general happiness and bliss was possible, but it is. And I think the only thing that's changed is this lack of resentments. Internally, externally, lots of things have changed, but internally, being resentment free has just led to a new peace.
What you said there brings me right back to our intro, actually. You speak about you speak about the prison, and I think in many ways the prison bars are the perspective through which we see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that when those prison bars are filled with resentments, we're looking to our world to prove that our resentments are true.
Mm-hmm.
When we let go of those resentments and the bars fall away, we no longer need to prove that truth. We get to see the world as it actually is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then you find yourself in this place of just, you're not, at least I'm not in conflict with anyone or anything. And I've said it before, this, it's one of my favorite lines. You get in an argument with someone, they tell you 2 + 2 is 5. And you just look at them and go, you're absolutely right. Enjoy. Don't need to prove anything. It doesn't matter. You're just at peace with it all.
Yeah. It's quite a place to get to. And I think that what I would share before we take a break is that Chris lives in that a lot of the time. I would say to you that I have momentary glimpses of what it feels like to live there. I am still letting all of this stuff go. I haven't quite arrived. at a place of absolute peace and ease. But I do know when my system is out of whack that it's time to look at what I'm carrying around with me.
Sounds good. That's a good place to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about how do we identify them and what do we do about them. See you in a minute.
Tune in to Break Free and Trust, a redesign for living with me, Jacqueline.
And me, Chris, on Transformation Talk Radio, every second and fourth Monday at 3 p.m.
Learn to connect with your intrinsic power to grow and to heal, and how to laugh at your own humanness and not take life too seriously.
Witness the field of potential that arises when you take personal responsibility and become the divine creator in your own life.
Visit theway-healing.com for more information.
Hey everybody, oh my goodness, we have got talk radio for all of it.
Really, thank you for blazing the trail for women in talk radio and just being such an inspiration to me and so many other people. What you're doing is so awesome. And, you know, without people like you there to like really step out of the box and go for it, I don't know if someone like me would have ever ended up here, but I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. You're one of my major inspirations.
What if your training isn't enough? The Multicultural Mindset Podcast invites counselors and therapists to unlearn the one-size-fits-all approach. This isn't cultural competence. It's a way of being that brings racialized experiences from the margins to the very center of care. Let's stop pathologizing Black pain and start challenging the system that created the bias in the first place. Visit newseasons.training to subscribe.
Living a life by design. It's the journey back to you and living 365 days of purpose with host Esther Graham. Tune in every second and fourth Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Discover that what is possible is already in you. God designed a phenomenal life for you. At Living a Life by Design, Esther helps you ignite the energy behind your personal journey. For more information, visit fddwomen.com.
Let your dreams and not your doubts drive your decisions. Often, like 99.9% of the time, it will require you to stretch yourself into unknown territory. But that, my friend, is how you grow. You are making decisions all day long. Decisions about what to eat, what to wear, who to call. Decisions about how to spend your time and who to spend it with. Or how to spend your money and what to spend it on. If just for today, you stopped before every decision and checked in with yourself and let your dreams lead the way, what would change and what could be possible for you? I'm Beth Lark.
And we are back. And just before the break, we started down that road of where we identify resentments, and I took us off track to why do we want to be resentment free? But now I'm going to bring us right back. And I guess the genesis of this podcast was actually working through some resentments or potential resentments this week. And maybe to answer that question, Jack, do you want to take us through something you encountered this week in terms of identifying resentment, where it came from, and maybe we can just use that as a springboard for a deeper conversation?
I think me and all my stuff tends to be the subject of a lot of these podcasts. Sure. So, in many ways, just like we were talking about, without really fully being aware of it, I was carrying around a lot of hurt and upset around a particular friendship, and recognizing through sharing it with another friend that I had been carrying around resentment, which was really clothed in hurt for going on 3 years. and that I could now name, 5, 7, 8 examples of where that had happened over and over and over again, and with another friend. And what I didn't realize at the time was that the lens that I was wearing was looking for it now, right?
Yeah.
I was looking for proof to my story, and the story was for me that I didn't matter.
Is that what clothed and hurt means?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm saying, yeah, clothed and hurt is, I didn't see that I was carrying a resentment. What I felt was hurt. And that hurt had become a resentment and was getting in the way of me being able to feel connected with somebody really important to me. And at the heart of it, as my dear friend said to me, you need to talk to her. At the heart of it, when I sat with it, what I realized was what it was touching was what I just said, which was the belief, an old belief, old belief that I didn't even really know was there, that I don't matter. And the idea of speaking that out loud was far too much for my nervous system to handle, because what that would expose was a deep insecurity that sat inside of me of not being important or of not mattering to somebody. And so rather than share it, I just continued to build this energy in my body that would ultimately have me completely disconnect from this friend, which would protect me from feeling the hurt.
Yeah, because the fear is you say something and they say, well, you're not important.
No, I think it's deeper than that, actually. I think what it is to admit to myself that the feeling is that I don't matter is very raw. It has me touching into a place that I don't even really want to look at, right? And so if I can continue to get proof from this person that I don't matter, I can actually step away. I can push her away enough and disconnect from her. And in doing so, I don't actually have to feel anything. She was bad, and I'm safe. To name it means that I actually have to not only reveal to myself that I don't matter is a conversation playing in the background, but I also have to tell her that what I've experienced is making me feel like I don't matter. And I have to unveil an insecurity in the process. And it was really profound for me, because I did end up talking to her, and I was able to share everything that I was feeling from a place of gentleness and kindness. And I was blown away, because not only did she hear me, she didn't go into defense. She didn't go into attack. She didn't do all of the things that we would naturally do to protect ourselves. She heard me, and she actually validated me, which was, you have every reason to feel that way. Let me sit with it so I can come back to you with an equally thoughtful response. And when she did, what she came forward with were all of her insecurities and why she had pushed me away so that she didn't have to feel them. And what ensued was a beautiful repair. But it doesn't always look like that.
Yeah, but just that process was from, these resentments protecting both of you, pushing you, keeping you more and more separate. And it was the step forward into like kind of unwind this, and all of a sudden it's this bonding agent that brings you close, will probably bring you closer than ever.
I don't doubt that for a second. And actually, I think a friendship that I was close to walking away from is a friendship that will walk with me through the rest of my life because of that experience. Yes. And with deep gratitude for the other friend who called me on it, right? But resentments don't always work that way. Sharing how you feel doesn't always translate into being heard and received and tapping into somebody else's vulnerability. Often it taps into somebody's own defense mechanisms and survival mechanisms. And it doesn't feel so clean.
Yeah. I mean, and that's my experience. We're talking about this example for you because it's recent, but in my own past, I had a 5-page list of resentments. I resented everything and everyone. And that was when I saw the absurdity and started going through this process. I want to do something about these things. I could see what they were doing to my soul. I could see what they're doing to my peace, and working through them one by one, getting into action. And the majority of them worked out in a way that, improved the relationship. But in many instances, it was not received well on the other side, or triggered something in the other person, and we went our own ways. But the key for me, it was always the same. Internally, I dropped the rock. Internally, I stopped drinking the poison. Internally, I found the freedom. And that's this process is about. And I find it really critical not to have any expectations around what happens when we go to let go of our resentments. It may not be reciprocated. That's okay. That's not the point. The point is we need to stop drinking. I need to stop drinking poison because it's killing me. What the other person does with it is totally out of my control. So this moving into trying to release and let go of my resentment, moving into making an amends, seeing where I was responsible, seeing my part in it, this is all for me. Now, it might benefit the other person, but ultimately, it's a selfish act with a capital S, where I'm prioritizing my authentic self by letting these things go.
Can you name an example when you shared a resentment that wasn't received well and how it left you feeling? Like an actual example.
Yeah, it's part of I call it the amends process of going through and identifying, my process, identifying where the resentments are. Okay, I'm going to deal with them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to approach the people that I've had a resentment to, or that maybe I've even harmed. But usually if I've harmed them because there's been a resentment, there's this relationship to it. And I'm going to own my part in it. I'm going to apologize, try to make amends, and see if I can repair the harm I've caused within the relationship, even if it's just my resentment, even if it's internally, nothing about it. And right at the beginning, I would say the beginning of this journey, the first ones I did were to probably the 3 men that were the closest in my life that had really been there trying to help me, deal through a chaotic period of my life of addiction where I was, I was definitely not at my best, to say the least. And I put them through a lot. And they were sort of right up there to the last day. And several months later, I reached out to make an amends, expecting, what I've been led to believe is going to be this repair of the relationship. Everyone's going to be great again. And it was across the board. That's great. Good luck, but pretty much never want to see you again. We don't want you. We don't want you in our lives. And it was really hard to take at the time, momentarily, but then almost instantaneously, I felt the freedom that came with that. I had been honest. I'd owned my part. I'd done my best. I tried to clear the wreckage of my past. And what other people do with that's out of my control. But that element of freedom came in. So my very first experience with this were not how it was supposed to go, but it was exactly how it was supposed to go for me.
So I'm a little bit confused because we're talking about resentments. And what you just described was a recognition of where you were carrying resentments and then moving into a process of amends. Mm-hmm. And that feels like I understand your process and where you went, but we're not talking about amends right now. We're talking about recognizing our resentments.
Right.
So can I take you back again?
Yeah, please.
To that place of when you recognized your resentments towards these people,
Mm-hmm.
what did you recognize in yourself?
Oh, I recognized how I had been playing the victim, how I've been, I recognized how I was resenting them for not doing more for me, not trying to rescue me, not being on my side. Recognizing all these expectations I'd been putting on them.
Okay, but I want to peel it back some more, because you
Right.
keep going into the place of where you're going to take personal responsibility. And I want to step back to the place of actually feeling into the resentment and naming it, because you're taking us 2 steps forward.
Right.
Right. So when you recognize in your body that, or in your mind,
Yeah,
in
not
my
body.
in my body,
Not
in
my
your
body,
mind.
in my
Okay.
mind. It's an intellectual.
When
It was
you-
an intellectual exercise then.
When you recognize that you were carrying all of these different resentments towards these guys, what did you do with those feelings? Before you took personal responsibility to go and look for your role in it, before you went and recognized with awareness that you were playing the victim, before you went into making an amends with them, because that's like step 4 of this process. We're just talking about how breaking free of resentments is an opening to freedom. When you recognize that you were carrying these resentments, what did you recognize about yourself?
That I was holding anger and expectations and in a sense of injustice relative to these other people who I then recognized were trying to do their best in a tough situation.
You're back there again.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. I don't think I even understand your question.
Your capacity through all of the work that you've done to look at yourself being personally responsible for whatever it is that you're carrying is profound.
Yes.
But again, it feels like that's 4 steps ahead of just talking about the resentment itself.
Tell me what you, give me an example of what I should say, because I'm not sure I understand your question.
I don't want you to say anything.
Yeah, no, but I don't think I understand the question.
Well, you got it there.
Okay.
Was I feel an injustice. I feel expectations that they were meant to meet me in ways that they didn't, which speaks to the needs that you had underneath there. And it's recognizing what those needs are ultimately.
Right. So
That's
that's
what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I understand now. Yeah. So going into a deep-seated thing for my feeling that I'm not enough. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not important. I'm not safe. This is the waters that these all came out of. And so they weren't meeting my needs and of safety and love and enoughness and worthiness. And that's what was getting resolved. So taking responsibility for that's where it came from.
And so thank you.
I understand now. Okay. Yeah.
I think it was really important to get there, because the freedom doesn't come from making the amends and feeling either like your apology has been received or not received. The freedom comes from your capacity to be able to actually recognize the needs that are sitting underneath the actual resentment and recognizing that they're not needs that anybody else can meet. Right?
I think it's both. I hear what you're saying. I think it's both. You can recognize all those things and take no action. And I think you'll be trapped in it. And you can take action and not recognize those things, and you may still be trapped in it. It's this combination, and I'm glad we're going here. It's a combination of recognizing what is driving this within me. What are the fears? What are the beliefs? What are my actions? Simultaneously with, okay, I want to take action to restore it. Because resentment is effectively a place of inaction.
Yeah.
And to do it, you're not asking the question, oh, there's a resentment. What do I do to fix it? If I have resentment, I'm going to hold on to it because it empowers me. So it's the recognizing it, understanding where it came from, and then moving into action to resolve it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was worth it.
Now you get to see how we work through tough stuff. Yeah. I think that in our world, too often we are willing to move. I think it's easier to move into action, to jump out of discomfort, to move into action, to make an amends, to make an apology, to do whatever it is. But the piece of work that has to happen first is that place of actually really tapping into, with deep awareness, what's driving this in me? Because when I can do that, then I can set all of me free by taking action afterwards.
And you know, it's interesting. Again, my experience is a little bit different because the people I work with, it's like, I find actually there's less resistance to figuring that part out. And then it comes, okay, now it's time to make amends. They're like, nope, I'm justified in that resentment, or I'm justified in that anger. Even though I know where it's coming from, I'm not going to take that step. And they'll have done all this work and they'll trap themselves because they won't cross that barrier of getting into action. It's too much.
So what's in the way of them taking that step?
Their pride, for the most part.
And
but the ego, but I mean their ego structure of safety.
Well, if I'm willing to look at all of my shit in private, or with a therapist, a coach, a counselor, a sponsor, whatever it is, okay? I'm willing to do that work, and I can look myself square in the mirror and see my pretty spots and all my ugly spots. That's really deep work.
Mm-hmm.
But then to go and step into showing off all those ugly spots to the rest of the world that I've protected myself from ever experiencing it, most of whom would probably turn on me if they saw it, especially when I'm thinking about some of your clients and some of the damage that they've created. Of course they're going to want to cross their arms, like you said, and say, nope. But both are required, aren't they? In order.
And I think there's another step in there too. There's the response, but I find it's less about the response. If I'm sitting with it right now, I'm just formulating this. It's more they're not ready to let go of it. I've seen it all, I have it all, but I've identified with it. And I don't think I'm ready to give this up. Like, this is all I've known for my entire life. And when this process of going and letting go of it all through this process of amends and letting go of my resentments, you're asking me to let go of my identity. And my identity has kept me safe. So I think it's less to do with how the other person responds. And it's some to do with that, but it's more about, who am I without these? Mm-hmm. My resentments are my identity. If I let them all go, then I don't know who I am anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think that's absolutely true. And thanks for clarifying that, because that comes back to what we said at the beginning about our ego structures, right?
Yeah.
They will work so hard to keep us safe because our survival depends on it in some part of our psyche.
Yeah.
That to let that go means we have no more signposts. We have no more sense of who we are. And we are nobody, right?
Yeah.
We've all of a sudden become nobody, which ultimately is the biggest freedom.
Yeah. And I think that's why so many people can do so much psychological work and learn all about themselves, but then hang on to that structure and identity, because it's just a big step that many people, unless they're forced to that wall, aren't really ready to let go of.
So you did that in a really big way, and you do that every day in a really big way. What makes it different for you now?
I mean, I was forced to the wall. That's the only thing I come up with for my situation. And I only know my own experience. Like, I got to that place, was whatever my identity was not working anymore. And it was just going to lead me to annihilation. So I was motivated with this gift of desperation to fully change it. And just by the grace of God, I fully bought into what was presented to me as a way out of it. And this was part of it.
And so for you, sitting on the other side of that, being able to experience what freedom feels like in your body, resentment free, what would you share with our audience in terms of the gifts of that place that might make one person want to look a little deeper and step into a little more courage to be able to make this move in their life?
Just that it's a newfound freedom, spaciousness, and expansiveness that, we use this word all the time here. It's somewhat ineffable unless you've experienced it, but it's like a promise that it's there. It's like it's this new way of seeing the world, a new way of living when you cross this boundary of letting go of the ego and the identity, and particularly the resentments, which is the outcome of it. And just thinking through this, like, it just sounds like it can sound like such a huge step. And I think if I think about like a process about working through resentments on a gentler and one-off scale is bringing two things to it. The first one is radical empathy. Especially when you're thinking about another person, it's like we're very much always thinking about our own perspective of it. And empathy is, can I put myself in the other person's shoes? Radically put themselves in the shoes. How do they see this situation and how do they relate to what's going on? That will be the first step to breaking it down. And the other one is humility, to just recognizing that my understanding of the situation is so small. I don't know anything. And if I can bring humility and empathy to this type of situation, it'll help dissolve it.
So I do have one last question, and I think that was beautifully spoken. But I have one question about radical empathy. How do we know when we are tapping into how somebody else feels that we're not making an assumption?
We're fully making an assumption. We're just trying. And we're trying our best, is all I can say. And like, again, it's like, it's all in this continuum of like, how honest am I being with myself? How honest am I being, if I can be as honest with myself as I can, and can I honestly try to put myself in that person's shoes that I have resentment? They're acting in a certain way that's upsetting me. Can I understand why they'd be acting that way? What may be happening internally to them? What I know, I have a whole bunch of fears and limiting beliefs. I guess they probably have some too. I wonder what theirs are. I wonder what I wonder what this situation is doing to their fears and limiting beliefs, like it's doing to mine. And as soon as we start doing that, we stop othering them, we stop dehumanizing them, and we start becoming them. And the separation goes and the oneness comes in. And that's the first big step in all of this.
So it sounds like this whole process leads us into a space of radical acceptance, both of ourselves and of another person.
Yeah. And then from that place, this movement to making an amends is like, I'm not worried about, I'm just seeing you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and that's our time already. Wow.
It's a great conversation.
Yeah, it was. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to me, Chris.
And me, Jacqueline, on Break Free and Trust, a redesign for living.
Tune in every second and fourth Monday at 3 p.m. on Transformation Talk Radio for more real conversations about life, death, and everything in between.
Learn to connect with your intrinsic power to grow and heal, how to laugh at your own humanness and not take life too seriously.
Through healthy conversations between the feminine and the masculine, you will learn how to harness the power of relationship and the mirror to befriend your shadow, and to trust that any obstacle that gets in your way is there to help you grow.
For more information or to connect with us personally, visit theway-healing.com. That's theway-healing.com.